AutoTracker camera has a PTZ camera up at the top. That camera does pan, tilt, and zoom optically.
It looks like there's another little camera in the base. What's that for?
That's the wide angle reference camera. It's a very key part of how the camera operates. The AI that's built into the camera analyzes what the reference camera can see, and it makes decisions based on that. When you set up the camera, you're going to draw a zone where you want people to be tracked in over that wide angle reference output. And that wide angle reference camera has a 92-degree horizontal field of view. So it's very important that you place the camera so that the wide angle camera can see the whole presentation area in the room.
Okay, so how do I avoid putting a camera where the camera can't see people?
We recommend that the camera not be placed closer to the presentation area than 15 feet. That's about 4.5 meters. That way the presenter has enough room to walk. At 15 feet, the presentation area can be about 30 feet.
How far back can a camera be?
We recommend up to 50 feet. At that distance, the AI can still do a really good job of detecting faces, and we recommend that as the maximum distance. Up to 50 feet back, because this is a 20x zoom camera, you're still able to get a really high quality close-up shot of the presenter and keep them in the frame.
Does how high it's mounted have any impact?
The AutoTracker camera is typically placed in the back of the room behind an audience. We typically recommend that it's mounted 7 to 12 feet off of the ground. In general, when you are mounting a camera higher like that, it needs to be further away to be able to get a favorable camera angle. When the camera is very high up, the view out of that wide angle reference camera can end up having more ceiling than presentation space. And in that case, you'll want to be able to tilt the camera down to accommodate for that. The camera is actually positioned tilted a little bit to accommodate for that, but sometimes you need to tilt the camera just a little bit more so that the tracking zone ends up in the top third of the image. You want your presenters to be able to walk forwards. It is a pan, tilt, zoom camera.
So how do I go about tilting the camera down?
This can be achieved with a mount that has an adjustable shelf or a platform on it. Also, you can use a small wedge.
So can it be mounted upside down?
No, the camera does need to be mounted right side up for the math to work properly in the algorithm that's built into the camera. This is going to be true for all of the cameras that Crestron offers that have the wide angle cameras in the base.
What if you can't mount it on the wall?
Crestron does offer a J ceiling mount with an adjustable platform on it for the AutoTracker camera. Also, the camera can be integrated with third-party mounts. It does have a standard mounting thread on it.
So as long as it's mounted 15 to 50 feet back and 7 to 12 feet high, I'm good?
There are a couple of other things that you're going to want to keep in mind. One is that this camera needs to be placed center to your presentation area. So you don't want to place this camera off to the side or something like that. It does need to be center. The other thing that you want to take into consideration are screens and monitors. You can have up to 8 blocking zones. That's a place where the camera is not going to look for motion or faces to start tracking. So if you do have a presentation zone with a lot of those blocking zones in, you want to make sure that your presentation zone is larger than your blocking zones so that the camera can still grab onto your motion. If you have a entire presentation zone that's all video wall, you may want to look for a speaker tracking solution.
It looks like there's 2 SDI outputs on this camera.
Technically, yes, there are 2 SDI outputs, one for the wide angle reference camera and one for the top tracking camera. However, it's only that top tracking PTZ camera that you're going to want to bring into your video conferencing codec. That's that close-up shot of your presenter being followed. The wide angle camera is more for reference. So you'll typically only look at that when you're configuring the camera, making sure that you can see that entire presentation space in the output of the reference camera. Most people don't run that SDI cable because there is an H.264 stream that you use for monitoring when you're setting up the camera.
Which is which?
The SDI output that's labeled SDI2 is the one that you're going to want to run. There's helpful little icons on the back. One has 3 people, one has 1. The single person one is the one you'll want to run.
On the SDI output, what if I need USB or HDMI?
If you need one of those, you're going to need a converter, so an SDI to USB or SDI to HDMI converter. Since HD-SDI can be run over 300 feet, we typically recommend that you run the HD-SDI cable and then convert closer to whatever you're bringing the camera into. The SDI cabling that you should specify is 75 ohms RG6 coaxial cables with BNC connectors. The camera has female BNC HD-SDI ports, and depending on your building codes, you may need to get plenum rated. Do keep in mind that the camera also has an option to add NDI-HX, so you could do video over the network and not need to run those SDI cables.
And what are my options for power?
The camera does come with a DC power adapter, however, most people are using PoE+. The biggest thing to mention here is that you do need to properly power the camera. A lot of the support calls that we get in are from people who have underpowered the camera. If you are using the included power adapter, you should be using local power. You don't want to extend it over about 10 feet, 3 meters. The voltage starts to drop over that distance. If you are using a PoE+, make sure that the switch that you're using is configured for up to 30 watts. You should not power the camera with PoE+ and the included power supply at the same time.
I know there's a camera manager software. Do I need to have that running to use the cameras?
No, that software is only for configuration and setup. It can be set up using any computer that's connected to the same network as the camera and then removed once the camera is configured. There's a great course on CTI that shows how to do all of that, and it covers the entire One Beyond camera product line.
What are my options for control?
Great question. Most people these days are using the network for control. The camera uses Visca over IP, but you can also connect it via RS-232 or RS-485. There's a breakout cable that's included in the box that connects to the camera. This way you can use it with your Crestron control system or other control like Zoom rooms. There are existing examples of these that Crestron provides, and you can also control the camera with a joystick.
With the camera auto-tracking, why would I want control?
A lot of people want to turn off the tracking when they're not in a meeting, or they want to move the camera to a particular position in the room, say a whiteboard. They may want a wider shot when they have a group presenter not focusing on a single person. When the tracking is turned off, the camera can be used manually, so you can recall presets, set presets, and you can also manually pan, tilt, and zoom it.
Can you use that H.264 stream for the actual video?
We don't recommend bringing that stream into your video conferencing call. If you want video over the network for your actual video for your meeting, we recommend upgrading the camera to the NDI-HX version.
So what's with this audio port?
It's for adding audio to that H.264 stream. Most people do not use it. It does not add audio to the SDI or NDI stream.
Before we go on, is there anything else to note?
One thing to note is that the AutoTracker camera does come in both silver and white colors.